everyone. So, welcome to our first episode of Hardware. Forgive us. We're recording out of a cell phone in here. And I think I just missed my fucking stuff. Fucking it.
No, you haven't.
Alright, 94.8. Oh, east. We're supposed to go east.
No, it's still next to
we're
Luke.
good. Oh, yeah. There you go. Never mind. Back on. Anyway, Hardware. Today we have a very special guest with us. Let me just get the freaking autopilot thing. And as you guys know, he is a quite the guest to start this series of podcast episodes, whatever you guys want to call it. We got Mr. Neil Landstrumm. Insert applause here. Neil and I go a few years back. Many of you guys know who he is, of course. And this is based off his influential presence on what we like to call electronic scene in music. Neil, to me, it's such a pillar of what we see nowadays. He's gotten shout outs by people like Daft Punk. Many people. I mean, Neil, enough of my blabberish. Welcome to our first episode. We're driving. We had a long ass fucking drive. So we just had a show real quick. We do look a bit tired. We had a show last night in Minneapolis with Andrew and Paul Birkin. It was a great turnout. How did you feel about the show yesterday, man?
Really good.
Yeah, I mean,
headsy crowd.
Headsy crowd. We saw a bunch of like old school ravers out there. Drop bass represent, right? So a lot of the drop bass people came out. Many of you guys might know drop bass. A very, very heavy, dedicated. Some people call it cult. I like to call it people with higher understanding of electronic vibes. So I like that. I don't have a tattoo. I'm not part of that, but I've known some of my friends are, and they're really cool people. So I like to start the interview basically just asking things. I don't want to go into things that people will usually ask you, but I feel like it might be a bit important for some people and some of the new people that are barely getting into it, like to understand and answer what you can and what you want. Like,
well, why don't we start with my spirit animal?
I did ask that earlier. I'm not going to ask you silly questions like what would be if you were to be an animal, what animal would you choose to be? What animal would you choose to be?
It would be the common fox.
Why is that?
I don't know. There's a fox that's been coming to me where I live.
Okay.
And I've just kind of grown quite attached to this wild fox that keeps coming.
Do you feed him or something?
No, I don't. That's the weird thing. I think he must have been hand-reared.
Okay.
Because he's very, very comfortable with human contact, but he or she, I think it's a he, I was working on my car and it came and sat next to me.
Okay.
And this is during, daylight. And I've seen it,
cool.
every time I've seen it, it's always come right up to me and he almost let me pet him last night. And I don't know, it's a very beautiful animal. I've never actually sort of been that close to foxes before.
I've had a dog that looked like a fox, and my grandma made it disappear one day. Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Came like, where's my dog? I don't know, he left. I'm like, weird. Anyway.
Well, what happened to him?
She
didn't like it.
I don't think she likes dogs, dude. I don't know, and I've had several too. Like, it's concerning because I don't know what happened to a lot of them. So now we got one. You already met him?
Yeah.
We got Egon.
Seems Egon with a nappy on.
Egon. And Neil, please show us your Pomeranian, dude. He's got...
Yes. It's a dog I met on holiday.
I go, that's such a nice Pomeranian. Is that yours? No, I met him. I'm like, what the fuck? That is funny, dude. So you do love Dobermans. You know, you're wearing actually.
That's my friend from Glasgow, Dixon Avenue Basement Jams, and that was his dog who died, unfortunately. But I do like dogs. I've got an affinity with dogs.
You're a dog person. You're a cat person.
No,
dude. Yeah.
See, I have a respect for cats, but I don't know. I'm a little bit weary of cats.
Cats worried me. We've had a cat for a bit, and I think she thought she owned me. Like,
well, they do. They say, what is it? Dogs have owners. Cats have staff.
I did feel like a waiter. I mean, I know I'm Mexican, but come on, cat. Like, chill, dude. It was interesting. Anyway, so now that we answered the spirit animal, I think that it is important for some people to understand, how did you get involved into music itself, and the one thing I gotta make very clear to many of you out there, because I've asked them this before, you've never DJ'd though. You've always...
No, I did when I first started, but I was always more curious about.
So DJ was your first like intro into?
Yeah, kind of. I was just more curious into how the records were made, and then started piecing together what machines did what, and that was kind of my introduction into it. It was more like a curiosity, really.
And the first drum machine you ever got?
Well, I was a drummer first, so I actually had a drum kit,
like an actual drum kit,
and then I kind of got the hang of that, but. When I got my first drum machine, which was a little pencil case Boss.
Oh,
little silver thing.
The little, okay, I've seen those. Okay.
Yeah, and I copied Energy Flash.
Wow.
The programming, and I was like, wow, you can program more than you can play. And I wasn't a particularly good drummer, so I kind of quite quickly, and it's a real pain in the ass moving drums. So I kind of like the compact format of a drum machine. And,
so that was the pencil case. Was that your first?
That was my first. Yeah.
Ah, interesting.
And then from that, I kind of I found a 303 and a 606 and a 707.
Are we going back early 90s or late 80s?
Like,
okay.
No, 90. Well, that old. It's like 90. I guess it was probably 91, 92.
You were very young.
Yeah, I was young. Yeah, I was 16, 17.
Wow.
And then my mum, bless her, said to me one day, she said, Neil, I can see that you're really into this. What do you need?
Oh, okay.
And
so you got one of those moms.
I had one of those moms, and she actually helped me buy the drum kit. She said, look, I'll buy it, and you can put your wages from your Saturday job and your other work in a pot and pay me off.
Wow.
So she was very helpful, and so one day she said, what do you need? And I said, oh, Mum, an 808.
Yeah.
my mum got me an 808, which I would have to say then was very cheap, because they were not, people knew what they were, but they weren't like today's prices. I think it was £300.
Let me ask you something. Do you still have the 808?
I still have the 808.
Whoa, dude. That same exact 808.
So my mum got me the 808, and it came from Turnkey in London, and you used to order the machines out the back of music. They just had like a mail order, so they would always have a 909, an 808, a 303, a Juno 60, and you could literally just kind of. But the prices were cheap, but it's hard to even appreciate. But these things then, they didn't cost very much money because nobody wanted them.
Right. Real drummers were like, that's not real.
The 808 by that point, it didn't sound like real drums, so nobody really wanted it.
I see. Okay.
It's a different mentality. Like these analog synths, people didn't really want them. So you would find Juno 60s for £100, £150. I got a Jupiter 6 for £600.
And what kept pulling you into that hardware-oriented performance, though? What was the detonator? What did, like, we all started somewhere, right? I remember my first show that I had in front of public. I was 15, and a bunch of DJ gear, and I played a French cotillion.
Yeah, I mean, it was more like it was all like there was a few of us that started assembling equipment, and it was more of the live performance aspect we did. So when we made tracks, then it was just a recording of a live jam. And we were also buying records, from the Midwest and other, like D-Jacks, which repressed a lot of Chicago records, or the German stuff has started to come online.
And now, the one thing that I find extremely peculiar is you go to Google or you go to YouTube and you type in your name. If I were to search you, House of God comes right away. Like, was that you played, right? There's
so that was
sets.
So the House of God's a club in Birmingham, and they were one of the first people to kind of book me after, like, I think the first Peace Rock record. So I've had a long relationship with the people that run that, and I played there at Halloween last year, and it was absolutely life affirming. Like, they've never changed the principles of the night, so.
And your first release, was that the Peace Rock album?
It was my second or third.
Okay.
And there's in today's crowded social media kind of dominated scene
that we absolutely love.
Yeah, I mean, which is has its issues. And the House of God has just maintained its original stance. No real promotion, amazing sound system, kind of no bullshit, no trouble, and it just, the crowd's like a real mix of ages, which is really nice. It's not all older people, it's not all young people, there's no phones. It's just really cool, it's just like what the original principles of rave were. Everybody's welcome as long as you're not going to cause any trouble. There's no issues on the dance floor. It's just, I don't know, the music's dark, it's just cool that things like that still exist, really.
It's just as underground as it gets, so.
Yeah, it's just real. Like, in today's world where everything is so artificial and based on kind of numbers that don't really exist, it's nice to see something that's actually real.
And throughout the years, so you've been performing for quite some time.
It's 30 years. Yeah.
30 years. And throughout the years, you ever felt like, because we all have our ups and downs, so
yeah.
You ever felt like saying, screw this, like, I'm kind of sick of it? Or have you gotten to that point?
Yeah.
Or has it always been like,
no,
up?
No. I've definitely been at that point quite a few times. But I love making records, and that keeps me going. There's definitely going to be a point where I think I'll have. Well, I don't know actually. It's kind of like, I think the style of records has changed that I make quite a bit. So I think they will gradually probably become less dance floor orientated, but I don't think the sort of urge to have some kind of creative audio output.
Yeah, I've from my perspective, I'm no expert whatsoever. None of my opinions that you'll see in this video reflect me as an expert or anything. It's just personal shit. So the way I've seen music printed in vinyl nowadays has become more of an art. It's not so much, because you don't get that many DJs playing records anymore, really.
No, it's more of a collector's market.
Right? It just got like DVS1 had that, played that movement, and he just hated the fact that the thing kept skipping at some point, and you know, it's like I'm kind of like done with it, you know, and it's kind of cool. I love it. I did it for a long time, but you know, I just
Yeah, I mean, I think it has its place, but I think my concern with it is it's just gotten very expensive. It's a total luxury. I don't think most releases warrant it being on vinyl. I just think it has to be a truly special thing to. And there's also the environmental concerns about vinyl. It's expensive to ship it. It's become a bit of a headache, I think. So I've taken the decision to definitely do less of it myself.
And we briefly talked about, we were having lunch earlier, and we briefly talked about how environmentally conscious some people are, and you're definitely one of them. So I admire that about you, so thank you.
Yeah, but then, you know, it's easy to be hypocritical with environmental stuff, isn't it?
Hey, we're driving in an electric car at least, right? I don't know where the electricity came from, but I know I'm actually on it. Cool, man. So, you know, we move a little bit forward. Let's go back a bit more. Just silly questions that people might ask. I don't know if you've ever been asked. I'm sure you have. So, I've already asked you, hey, have you ever met, like, you know, you said you met Carl Cox at some point. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, when I was 16.
16, that's sweet. And like Carl Cox is a big influence into what I do. Nowadays, everybody's direction changes, and it's just different. But that's really cool. And just one question that just quickly popped into my head. So you lived in the U.S.
Yeah, I stayed in New York between 97 and about 2002, 2003.
And like, I mean, culturally speaking, music represents so many things to a certain group of people, and some others, it could represent some other things, some other, like, what would be the difference if you were to be able to identify, for example, a rave in Europe versus a rave in the US? Because can you tell there is a difference on how people behave? Like, it's there a...
Well, I mean, back then it was more obvious in the fashion, and I think, well, Europe is a more club-orientated scene, whereas America was, there was clubs, but it was more these kind of one-off events. So they would be in a roller rink, or
you got further.
Yeah, or these kind of where Europe it was much more club oriented, and it settled into clubs. The rave period in the UK and Europe was earlier, so the kind of the great rave years in the UK is kind of 89, 90.
Okay.
Where there were these kind of aircraft hangar parties, or sort of abandoned warehouses and so on, and then it gradually settled more into clubs. I mean, there was, I'm not talking 100%, but the fashions were different. America, you know, had the kind of baggy clothes, so it just looked different.
I see.
I'd say it's maybe slightly more organized in Europe, let's see.
And I mean, it's a hard question to ask, right? Because if you ask people which one is better, like Pepsi or Coke, you can't really answer that.
Yeah, I mean, the difference in Europe now is that you have these great kind of institution clubs like Berghain or Tresor or Fabric in London, and they've been around for a long time, and they week in, week out, they're curating a set of club nights, whether it's like drum and bass or techno or house or whatever. So they're very, very well organized, and it's a machine that just, a cultural machine that just keeps going. And America doesn't seem to have so much of that, I would say.
I see. And another quick question that popped into my head real quick was, so this is silly, but if you were to be sent off to an island, right? Choose your poison. Which
The desert island discs.
or drum machine?
Right, okay. thought you could say records.
you will take with you, like, so you don't die of boredom.
I would definitely take an Akai MPC.
Okay.
That's my kind of heart of the studio piece, I would say. I've got an MPC 3000, which I love.
Okay. I've that's really
which is a kind of, I know but it's like the classic 90s kind of Dr. Dre, Dilla.
You did tell me at some point that particular sound, the way it processes sound, it's just like
it's the way that it pitches things up and down is very different to a computer. Like the quality of the tonal quality is different, and also the individual outs, and it's just a pleasure to use. It's a really lovely machine. So I would take that. What else would I take?
It could be a modern one too.
Yeah. I'm kind of just thinking. I mean, I love my Jupiter 6, but it's a big old boy, so I don't know how practical it is.
Use his load to get out of the island.
Give me like my canoe. It's probably not the most practical of pieces. I mean, the analog 4 is nice.
The analog 4 is
it does a lot of things well, and it's quite small.
Okay.
And I can keep the sand out of it.
Yeah, and it's got the little mini keyboard.
Yeah, it's got a little mini keyboard. So I'd take that. And I'd probably take a piece of outboard gear, like a Valve VQ or something.
And some headphones.
I mean, where do you draw the line?
You just bring the whole club.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you only could take 3 records or 3 pieces of music, it doesn't have to be electronic.
So I love the Vels, dude.
The what?
The Vels.
Right.
The Vels, to me, it is probably one. I don't know that my favorite record, but it's got a bit of everything. You know, it's got a nice fucking kick. It's got a weird off like fucking sequence, and at the end, it's got a bit of like the outro. It's got a weird tribal thingy. I really like it. But remember, I'm not much of a DJ nowadays. But back in the day, I used to DJ with vinyl. I'll say the second one. I love the Beatles, dude. The White Album, for me, it was a really good album to listen to. My dad loves the Beatles, so the White Album was really good. And I know this is very unconventional, but I like Back. I used to listen to Back and Tongue, which is just weird. And my neighbors will just be really weirded out by a 13, 14-year-old listening to that kind of music. We found the strings and it's really, really, and I don't even know what the fuck I was listening to half of the time.
Yeah, but it's the emotion.
It was exactly. What about you?
I would take Suicide's first album.
Okay.
Which is one of my favorite records. I'd definitely take some Jamaican music. I find this kind of. I love Jamaican music, but I kind of, if I could take a mixtape, that would probably be better for me. Like a kind of either like the original kind of rocksteady period, or I do like the 80s kind of dancehall, stripped down kind of stuff, or like the sort of classic heavy dub 70s kind of stuff. But it would have to be a mixtape. I couldn't specifically.
You're cheating, dude.
I know. I'm kind of cheating. And it's so hard, man. I do like the Human League as well. So
okay,
maybe League Unlimited. Love and Dancing, which was the sort of dub edit version of some of their tracks.
Nice. Cool, man.
So
Now, this another weird ass fucking question probably been asked, and we're not trying to cite anyone out. And if you're not comfortable answering, that's cool. We can move on to the next question. But best fucking like party you've ever played, dude. There has to be one, dude.
yeah, it's so difficult to.
There has to be one. I haven't played nearly as much as you, and maybe that's why. But I could pinpoint like the best, to me, experience I had. The best, like that one time where everything aligned and every fucking kick was like perfect, and everything was just like painless.
Yeah, but I'm getting to a point where I'm so old that I'm like mixing like parties and years off, and it doesn't actually make any sense anymore. And I'm mixing like the wrong things together.
Well, okay, let's make it easier.
Like
The last 5 years.
I tell you what, I was thinking about this the other day when I played the Detroit Music Festival in 2019. That was a really good one.
I was there. I remember
That was in the basement
at
the underground stage or whatever.
the underground stage.
That was a really good one, and
You absolutely freaking killed it.
I really enjoyed playing there, and the sound, it kind of suited me. The crowd, it wasn't too late and it wasn't too early. I kind of like middle slots, and it was like a nice.
I can't quite remember who went before you or after. I think
it was
PLA.
LSD, wasn't it? Like Luke Slater. And
Yeah. That's right.
Steve Bignon.
It was after you.
After me.
That was like, dude, I remember that. It was.
That was a really good one, and I've got a lot of fond memories of coming to Detroit, and I like Chuck who runs it and everything.
Yeah, we drove from. Wait, what's that?
Well, this is what I mean. I was mixing it with the time that we went to.
But you did. You came over to Chicago,
and
you played. What that was Noise Floor. That was Noise Floor.
I don't think it was.
No. Fuck, you're right. Earlier. But you did. We drove from here to there.
Right.
I think that was the point.
But this is what I mean. It's like you start fusing the.
It is weird. I haven't played nearly as much as you, and I'm already getting confused. All right, cool, man.
And well, here's another one. So I played in. My friend John does a thing called Sports Banger in London, and I did the first record for his label called Harris, and he put on a party at the Cause in London for Halloween. That was a great party. Paranoid London played. That was like one of the first big parties after the COVID lockdown kind of era. That was a good one. And then I played in the Highlands in Scotland recently, and I played there 2 years ago, and it was a small party, but it was amazing. It was like the response from the crowd was just it was fantastic. It doesn't have to be these huge.
I get this weird thing, a weird feeling every time I play, like for example in Chicago. Like it gets to the point where people, due to what you've done, which is weird and it might sound a bit egocentric, but it gets to the point where when you play home again, people really connect with you at a whole different level. I almost feel like they feel like, and it's true in a way for me, because a lot of people have asked me this, and they say, dude, you play just like so Chicago, and I didn't know what the heck that means.
Chicago.
I'm like, what do you mean I play Chicago? Like, I didn't get it really until I started listening to like Kashmir or Dion and all this stuff, and it's like, oh, I see what they say. Right. Like I lived there, but I lived in Mexico City my entire life, but yet I was being influenced by the all the UG records.
Yeah, the thing that always attracted me is because I was a huge fan was the Chicago Shuffle. Like there was something about Chicago, like the jacket thing.
Okay.
And it just had that kind of odd funk to it, which, like, as much as I respect Detroit and the kind of a lot of Detroit records, I was always more influenced by Chicago.
Okay, maybe that's okay.
And it was like Dance Mania and Relief and Tracks. And,
do you remember the underground construction?
yeah, these and like
so
all those kind of artists, hugely influenced.
we were talking about Armando,
Cashmere, yeah, DJ Funk, Dion,
Bang, the Future, what's the name? Pierre, okay, and many more.
Many more.
Don't want to leave anyone out. Just driving.
Yeah, Mike Dearborn.
Yeah, fuck yeah, Mike. Which we might see later on.
Yeah, but all that stuff.
Wait, so Joey is New York, Belgium.
Yeah, but Belgium is, the thing about Belgium is he's definitely created at least 2 of the best ever techno records.
And when you listen to them,
like Mentasm and Energy Fund,
it's really just very like simple and yet so complex.
It's very potent. It's I think Belgium stuff has a very particular mood.
We can, of course, omit Hyperactive as being a Chicago, which still very active.
Well, I met Joe. I got invited to Chicago in '95, and Joe remember driving me around.
Jojo was taking me around,
and he just released that Chicago.
I love his reptilian tag track. Shit, dope as hell, man. Cool, awesome, man. So studio sessions for you are a thing of a daily. You go every day to the studio.
Not every day, but I try and do at least 2 days in the studio a week, and then I take the recordings away, and then I'll work on the stems and the final production on another couple of days. So it's kind of, I have the kind of recording session, take that away, and then play with that. So it's kind of a 2-stage.
And at this point on your life, you treat that as your job.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, you have like a schedule. You get there.
Yeah, I mean,
you're disciplined when it comes to that.
I think the thing I've learned about producing is the bit that you've got to do is finish things. It's so easy to start things or even get halfway through but then not finish them, and it's such a waste. And so even like there's been so many times where I'm like, oh, I can't finish this, I can't do it, or I didn't even like it that much, but I finished it, and I'm so glad I did, because they're the tracks that ended up people liked.
And do you follow a certain format? For example, back in the day, I remember talking to someone who was doing mastering for my old label, and he was like, I just don't like, because he asked me for music and I send it out, and again, I had like one single like record, like actual pressed, right? So unlike you've had tons, but I remember sending music out to this guy for his label that he asked me for. He's like, just your tracks are too freaking long. I'm like, yeah, but it's not boring, it's not like the same shit over and over. It keeps transitioning. And he's like, yeah, but it can be a DJ set in a way, Do you have a certain limit that you put yourself, like, because he told me the old way used to be recorded as you followed the time that you're allowed to press, basically.
Yeah, I mean there was kind of certain boundaries within vinyl, but I am more of a fan of the shorter track.
Okay, so too long for you will be
6 minutes.
Oh, 6 minutes.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm a kind of 4.5 minute. So, and actually, I think I've even got shorter than that. I just find with electronic music, sometimes it can just go on a bit, but that's a personal thing. I'm kind of more of a short and sweet kind of.
And nowadays, with all the digital, tools that they have out there, you don't need to make a track that long, because you could just loop a certain area. And if they like that, they could just like
yeah, I mean,
you know?
I think it's kind of like electronic music is about, you better watch this little diversion here. I like to get to the point quickly, so just get into the groove, lock it, and then play with that. I don't like big introductions. I don't like big outros.
To just get to the point.
Yeah, but I mean, but that's just my opinion. I like just throwing grooves at people.
That's really cool.
And
man.
I think today's market, the attention span is so short.
It is. I mean, I myself, when I teach, it's just like.
Well, if you don't grab somebody in 15 seconds, you've lost it now.
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, in recent years, I've been doing much. It's not really all techno, so I do a lot of bass stuff. I do a lot of even more like pop leaning productions, and there's a skill in getting to the point quickly. That's what it has to do.
Nice.
Like stuff that gets on the radio or whatever. So
in post-processing for you, are you a board guy, or everything happens within Logic per se?
no, it's definitely kind of DAW-less, I believe is the phrase.
Okay.
So the MPC's the heart, and then I'll have the beats coming off of that, and then I'll be sequencing the synths, and it's all pretty much tracking through a mixing desk, which then goes through an outboard chain of Crane Song Komprezzor,
Wow, okay.
thermionic culture. It's almost like a sweetener, but it's like a sort of valve.
I know the
It's not the culture, but it's the rooster that I've got. But
Okay.
it's kind of like an audio sweetener. Like you've got a tube element, and then you've got almost like a kind of Pultec type
That's cool, man. All right.
warming EQ, but it's not very
destructive
or drastic. It's kind of
Okay.
mild. And then I go into the sound card. But I mean, to be honest, sometimes you get better recordings not even bothering with the mixing desk and just going straight to the sound card. It just depends. I don't like have a fixed.
So you're very flexible when it comes to your workflow.
Yeah, I like to change the sort of settings and setup quite a bit, because it's quite easy to get stuck in a row. Like, I like when people come to my studio and they have a go of a synth or something, and they always do something completely different to what I would do, and I'm like, oh shit, this sounds really good. Because you get in these odd habits of doing the same thing, and it's like you've really got to keep breaking that mold to keep going forward with something. I mean, because you get people who keep buying equipment all the time.
Right, that becomes a dangerous game.
It becomes a dangerous and expensive game of like never really learning the piece of equipment and always seeking the thrill of a new thing. Because when you get a piece of gear, you sort of plateau with it.
Right.
But it should, I think, in my opinion, be a kind of long-term relationship with a piece of equipment.
Okay. Well, you've had your 808 for a long time.
Well, the thing is, I've had all the pieces for a long time. I've always bought quality or interesting things, really, when they were a bit cheaper, and then kept them for a very long time.
That's good. So you got a 303, of course, too, right?
I did have a 3. I sold it.
Oh, okay.
That was one of the first things I got. But personally, I've done my acid contribution, so it's not something I really wanted to. Like, for me, acid, I'm more interested in things that sound acidic that aren't a 303.
Okay.
So, like, for example, one of my favorite acid records is Jesus Loves the Acid by Ecstasy Club, which is a sort of British, I think it's 89, 88 acid record, but it's not a 303.
Okay. What did he use?
101.
Yes.
Or it might have even been a Juno 60. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's a 101, but it's the most acidic sounding record, but it's not a 303.
And also that 303 was so fucking hard to program, dude.
Well, it was all accidental, really. you know, because the thing is, a lot of the 303s by that point, the buttons were so screwed that even if you wanted to, you couldn't really.
Well, you could always out. Okay, yeah.
So, like, if you had a baseline in mind, it was very hard to get it to do it because the buttons would triple enter or
through the little plastic.
Yeah, because you had to sort of roll them.
Alright, cool, man. Well, we are well into our 40 minutes, and are you still? Are you bored? You want to keep going?
Why don't we get off the topic of music?
I think we should. I think we were talking about nature, enjoying nature a lot.
Yeah.
You do a lot of hiking, and you were telling me about your trip to Sahara. That's really fucking dope, dude.
Yeah, me and a few friends drove all the way from Scotland to Merzouga in the Sahara, just in southern Morocco.
How long did it take you? A month?
Well, it was a month, the whole thing, but it took about. Basically, we went from Scotland to the south coast of England, took the ferry from there to Spain, drove to Barcelona to pick up another friend, drove from Barcelona down to Almeria in the south of Spain, then took the overnight ferry to Nador in eastern Morocco.
Wow.
And then drove through the Rekan Plain, which is like the empty east quarter of Morocco, where there's nothing there.
That is really cool.
Down and just wild camped and slept in the open, and then ended up in Merzouga, which is the famous kind of pink sand dunes, and drove around there. Then we went to the Algerian border. Then we went to Erg Chebi, which is the other dunes, and then over to the Anti-Atlas.
Did you, are you allowed, this is really a stupid question on my end, but are you allowed to, like, camp out on the desert?
Yeah, well, that's the weird, because in Scotland you're allowed to wild camp, but you're not really allowed to just drive anywhere.
Okay.
Whereas in the Sahara, because so much of it is kind of empty, there's obvious, like, farms and people's property, but there's also a lot of empty land. So as long as you're kind of respectful to the locals, you can pretty much go where you want.
And you took your Land
Cruiser.
The Land Cruiser that you have is beautiful. And now, is that all terrain? Because there's no roads in this. Is there?
Well, it's a kind of odd mix of when you get to the Sahara, it's not all like picture perfect sand dunes. Most of it is just like scrub. So it's really rough, kind of very rocky terrain with, there's not much kind of trees, or they get these, I can't quite remember the name of the trees, but it's what the camels eat.
Okay.
Where they have these, like, it's almost like a ceramic thorn on it. Everything is so kind of like,
out to get you.
Yeah, sort of, but there's only like little bits of the Sahara that have these amazing dunes. Like Algeria is mainly dunes, but Morocco is less so. But it's just absolutely stunning.
That's when what kind of impact does it have for you to be in a place like that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, because there was four of us, we just talked a lot.
Okay.
So every day you're confined to a vehicle, but there's this sort of momentum of traveling. We listened to loads of music. We just talked a lot. We hung out, and it just kind of, it was a beautiful little kind of bubble in time where you didn't have any kind of, you could forget your responsibilities, or it's very difficult to do that in modern life, to have these points where you can truly switch off. And I do think when you go so deep into wilderness or emptiness, which is what a lot of the desert is, there's a sort of mind cleansing kind of mind wash about it.
I hope if I were to be in a place like that, which I have never have anything as nearly as deserted as that. Not even when I came over. To me, it will felt like it'll help me understand my place in this world. You know how sometimes we in our heads we tend to make problems this big because they live within our head, right? But when you go to a place like that, you realize you're like this big, right?
Yeah, well, I think one of the most amazing things was the stars. I didn't really appreciate how clear a picture you get of the stars and the kind of the curvature of the Earth. But when you're somewhere where there's zero light pollution, you can see the Milky Way, you can see the space station going over. And
can you actually see the space station?
Yeah, you can see it, and it's kind of not like you need to have optics.
Like a 4K.
but you see stuff tracking.
I see.
But to be able to see the Milky Way in quite great definition, but you can see how the nomadic tribes, it's so hot, that's why they traveled at night, because it's cool, for example. But also, it was like a kind of a guidance system, because if you knew how to read the stars placement, you could navigate. I never really appreciated the wonder of that until I was there. I mean, in Scotland you get clear nights where you could never get fully away from the light pollution, but in somewhere like the Sahara you can.
Wow, dude! And are you a beach person? You like going to the beach?
Really.
Yeah, I hate the sand and the
Well, it's not that I
wind.
don't. It's not that I like beaches. But I get bored sitting around. I'm not somebody who goes on holiday that just sits for 2 weeks and just doesn't.
Just baking under the sun. I don't have the
skin. I don't have the skin for the sun.
I don't like the sweat. I don't like feeling sweaty. I hate that. I absolutely hate it. All right, so cool. That's interesting. Awesome, dude. Question: How many animals have you had in your life? How many pets have you had?
Well, I had a dog.
Growing up?
Yeah. A hamster.
The hamster. Okay.
My daughter has a hamster, which she's very fond of. Not a huge amount of animals.
I had a hamster and I lived in a 5th floor. My hamster was suicide.
It was called suicide.
He was just suicidal. Like, he'll break out. And one time, he jumped off. We had this place in the back where you could wash your clothing, but there was this bricks that have big holes. So he just jumped off, landed, and he survived the first time. He totally survived. Brought it back in, and I'm like, what the flip, dude? Escaped again, and just never saw him again.
He wanted that.
It was back in Mexico. He just left. I don't know.
What color was it?
White and a beige.
Was it a Syrian hamster?
I wouldn't know. I bought it in Mexico. Does that make him a Mexican hamster?
He was a Mexican Syrian hamster.
Yeah, I found it interesting. He'll poop in my hand all the time. Whenever I try to grab him, I'm like, that's funny. Alright, reptiles. You like reptiles? Or spiders? No.
Well, I mean, I appreciate a spider as much as the next man, but not as pets.
You'll never want to have a tarantula. I don't like tarantula. I don't like reptiles either. I'm petrified by freaking scorpions, dude.
Yeah, I mean, do you get them in Mexico? I guess you do.
My mom's town it used to be filled with them. Now there's more people than freaking scorpions there, but
Yeah, because in the desert, I thought we'd see stuff like that, but we actually saw very little wildlife. You don't really appreciate how. I mean, that's why these things are so deadly. It's because if they come across something that they can eat, or they have to kill it because they don't get the opportunity.
But I mean, it's just like a mechanism of defense for spiders. scorpions and snakes. They can't eat a human.
No, but if they meet a small...
Oh, like a small little...
Yeah.
I see.
But like, you know, we saw a wolf. That was in the Atlas Mountains. African golden wolf. That was pretty cool.
Don't they travel in packs now?
No, it was just on its own.
So it was a lone wolf. Okay. Lone wolf. That's so cool, man.
But we didn't really see... We saw a few geckos and like lizardy kind of things, but camels.
No crazy scorpions like they show on like the movies. Oh crap! Okay. All right. Well, it's changed my perception of the desert.
Well, but it is by its definition empty. You know, so
well, it's a desert.
a lot of donkeys, a lot of dead donkeys.
Dead donkeys?
Oh, because they're just treated as.
Oh no! Okay,
Okay.
Then they just leave them there. Oh,
So like you would kind of be driving through a village, and you'd be like, oh my god, what is that smell?
No.
And it just like, because it's so hot, like there's something, you know, it's just like absolute death. You go around a corner and there's a donkey's corpse.
Oh, that's crazy, man. Now, sports. You like any sports? You play sports?
I used to. I'm not a huge sport fan. I don't really watch football.
Yeah, I don't. You don't like soccer?
I do like football, but you know I like things like the World Cup. I'll get into that.
Okay.
Or like when Scotland play, but I don't specifically follow a team.
Yeah.
My dad liked football, and we used to go to football games together. But he would just go to whoever was playing like close. We didn't go. We went to Hibs quite a lot, Hearts, Aberdeen, but we were never aligned with our team.
Okay. That's really cool.
But
Man.
I don't. I like some motorsport stuff. I'm not a big TV person. So.
You said you like to watch.
I like watch kind of
documentaries.
Yeah, documentaries. I like
traveling stuff too.
Traveling stuff. I like a lot of kind of what I call slow TV, which is like I like mechanics. So I like watching these dudes take apart engines.
Okay.
It's something that you have on in the background, and you're maybe like doing something on your computer. But I find it quite therapeutic when they're talking.
Okay, that's interesting.
You know, or they're because YouTube's amazing. You can find programs about absolutely. I like the fact that a lot of it's homemade as well.
Right.
And I find that there's more interesting things on YouTube now than there is on mainstream TV.
Well, mainstream TV is made for the
Mainstream,
masses. You know, it's just like that. Like, yeah, I'm not a big fan of many things. I am a bit of a nerd as well, so I like nerd stuff. Video games. I like video games. I was born in the '80s, man.
Yeah, well, I find with video games, my brother was really into video games, but it was the sort of home computing era.
Like ColecoVision. Atari.
We had an Atari, and he went on to have like a Spectrum, which is a British computer, and then Commodore 64.
So, Commodore, of course.
So the Commodore 64 was the daddy of the era, definitely. But like all the, like arcades were a big part of our youth.
Yeah. You got like the Pac-Man and Space Invaders.
But when it kind of switched to consoles,
you're disconnected.
No, I wouldn't say disconnected, but it was always something in somebody else's house that I went. So like when PlayStations came out or the Mega Drive, it was always at somebody else's house. It was never at my house.
I see. I love video games, man. As you can tell, you've been to the lab, and I love video games. I find them extremely. Hold on, I think there's a cop right there. I like right there the black one. So I like video games. It really helps me disconnect and kind of go into a different mindset, and it helps me process. So if I've ever, like for example, if we speak about music, I get stuck. I play some Mega Man, and I'll come back and I'm like, okay, I think I know how to finish this up. Or if I'm having issues at work or whatever, I'll play some video games. And I don't mean the new shit, because it's too fast for me, dude.
I find like the thing with it, a lot of the newer games is it's a whole like relationship that you have to have with it.
It's a commitment.
It's a commitment. That's the word I'm looking for.
Like, yeah, I've been meaning to pick up RoboCop.
Oh, is there a RoboCop game?
Dude, it's insane, but it's a commitment.
Is it based on the 80s?
It's based on the 80s, but it's very gory. Like, he'll go around shooting. You know, the movie itself is extremely boring. Like, seeing him, like, being torn apart, and I was like, and it's just like, the video game is just like that. So I've been meaning to pick it up, but I just sadly don't have the time to sit down and enjoy it.
Is that like PlayStation?
It's a PS5. Exclusive.
Oh, that's cool.
But nowadays, you don't even really need a console with cloud gaming. You just get the subscription that you could actually play a lot of video games through your computer.
I think the one thing that a lot of the modern games have lost is just the instant pickup ability.
It's very complicated.
It's very complicated. So you actually have to spend a night just learning the controls or whatever. You know, it's a bit
right. And it is funny that you say that, because they're usually, there's the beginning, the intro, like the very first few minutes of game, it's just showing you how to play the game.
Yeah, and I just kind of I find it a little bit off-putting. When I used to like driving games, you can generally kind of just pick them up and start it. Yeah. And you know, I used to like, say in the late 90s or whatever, when you could go around your mate's house and you would
pick up the controller.
You would be having some beers.
Mario, okay.
Yeah, and you'd play Mario, or like, I mean, Mario Kart is still like
that's really
it's the uniform game throughout the generations.
Right.
Your granny can play it and your little daughter. But I miss those kind of like games that you could just kind of vibe on really easily, and kind of there'd be a little competition between everybody who was hanging out.
It just has sadly evolved into consuming, you know.
Yeah, and like I see it in some of my friends' sons and daughters, or mainly sons, but like Fortnite and these kind of things, where it was like, but they, you know, they're sitting there and it's so immersive with the headset on, and it's like you'd be sitting in the next room and all of a sudden you hear it's like, shoot him in the face. And it's like this 12-year-old boy is like telling his mates to shoot.
Oh yeah.
Shoot him in the face right now.
yeah. I hear that very often at home.
It's like you're just like what?
It's like we're about to fall asleep, and all of a sudden it's like, ah! I'm like, what the fuck, dude? We just get robbed. Somebody broke in. What the fuck? It is quite scary, dude.
It's almost like horrendously violent.
You walk in and like, what happened? It's just weird. I get it. So yeah, no, I used to play a lot of Call of Duty, and
Call of Duty is
dude, I used to get Tourette's, seriously.
Yeah, break his neck.
Just like, come on, stab him. Like another one. And you get in the binge. It's weird, dude. I had a friend that once, so they released a pack where you can use a ninja sword.
Right.
Dude, he killed 57 people.
Right.
And he was just like on this, like, I'm like, dude, you're the fucking Highlander or some shit, dude.
Like
he ended up waiting, dude. It gets to the point where he's like, towards the end, it's just him and another guy. And the circle starts closing, and he's running around with the sword like,
it's hacking.
Dude, all of a sudden, this guy flips out of a fucking bush and just goes, that's it. That's how it ended. I'm like, that wasn't very epic, dude. I'm so sorry. So I get it. I get it. It could be quite stressful just to.
Well, I remember the first time. Remember the first-person shooter games, like Doom was the first.
Yeah. Okay.
But it was 2.5D. It wasn't quite 3D. So like the characters would come towards you. It was a little bit jerky, but
it was.
It started that feeling of dread,
like
anxiety,
like POV, right?
POV, yeah.
And
then the next one was Quake, and the Quake engine, and it was much smoother. And
so you did get to play? Did you do any LAN parties, like where you connect?
Yeah. Well, I've always just not so much in recent years, but I've always kind of, each kind of cornerstone of gaming, I've kind of had a little bit of a play with it.
Oh,
But I never devoted the time to it to be like a gamer or whatever.
I see. Well, I think that's what video games should be for. Just decompress when you feel like it. And the way things are going is like they made it so it becomes sustainable for the companies to keep on going, and they do that by pushing stuff that you gotta buy.
Yeah, in game. Yeah.
You know, it just kind of sucks, but at least you still get some Mario Kart. Even Mario Kart lately, what they did is
They buy the tracks.
well, yeah. Now they were going to come out with Mario Kart 9, and Nintendo saw that people kept just fucking buying it, and they were like, "We're just gonna give you one track," and people are just all over it. So they released Mario 8 Plus, and you're like, "What?" They just added like 3 different Marios that smile different. Nothing really changes. So in a way, I feel like the consumer is at fault from time to time. You know. So movies. Do you like movies? Do you enjoy watching movies?
Yeah, I like movies. Yeah.
What kind of movies do you like? A specific genre or?
No, not really. I'm terrible at, you know, when I get put on the spot of like things I've seen recently.
I keep rewatching Back to the Future. One of my favorite movies ever. Like the trilogy. I feel like the third one is just a bit cheesy, right? Like,
well, they're all cheesy in there.
they are, but I mean the first one is well stitched.
Out of all of those kind of style, I think Ghostbusters is my poison. Like I watched on the plane coming over again.
One or two?
Yeah, one. Like one.
Did you watch the third?
Oh, it's some shit.
No, did you?
Well, I've seen Ghostbusters 2. Which it goes.
Third one is called Afterlife.
Oh, that was alright.
It was great, dude.
It was alright. It was
I
amazing.
loved it. I mean,
there's a new one about to come out. Yeah.
I know. As you know, I'm a huge Ghostbusters
Yeah, well,
fan.
because I was 10 when Ghostbusters came out, and I distinctly remember when they reviewed it on TV. It was called Film 84 on British TV, and I remember seeing the scene with Venkman when he gets slimed, and I just thought it was like amazing, you know. But there's something about that original Ghostbusters where they got it. It was actually part of the reason, like, not like, you know, New York. It was breakdancing, it was hip hop, it was Ghostbusters. It was like, you know, all these kind of things. And I remember I got a bike when I was in New York, and I was cycling around, and I was discovering bits of Brooklyn, and I went into Manhattan, and I remember cycling around Tribeca and fucking seeing the Ghostbusters building.
The station,
and I was like, oh my god.
But you didn't know that it was
I
there.
didn't know
You
it was
just
there.
came
I just came across it.
that's the best.
And then I was like, fucking hell, that is the Ghostbusters building.
You're like double taking.
And then I like went up to it, and you could see they still had the fucking sign inside it.
Dude.
It wasn't open or anything, but it was like, obviously it was something else by this point. But they still had the fucking Ghostbusters sign.
That's so dope, dude. I love Ghostbusters. The new one is coming out. I'm excited about it. But I do keep going back to old movies. Late, like newer stuff. It's either too political for me.
I tell you what I saw recently. There's 2 Japanese films.
Okay.
That I went with my daughter, and we went to see the new Japanese Godzilla.
Okay.
That was really good.
Nice. Okay.
It was kind of just after the Second World War, and it was live action. It wasn't dude in a suit or anything. That was a really good film.
So is that CG though?
No.
Godzilla had to be CG, like computer generated, right? But very detailed, I'm assuming.
Yeah, but it kind of broke from the previous. It wasn't like those terrible Hollywood ones.
Godzilla looks like a goddamn fucking lizard on steroids.
Yeah.
It's just pretty weird. Okay.
They were really shit. And then we saw the new Studio Ghibli film, The Boy and the Heron. That was really good.
Oh, okay.
It's beautiful. It's the director's final film. Who did Spirited Away.
I love everything that he's done.
Yeah, The Boy and the Heron is brilliant. It's so psychedelic, and
It's just his style.
It's his style, but it's so like the coloration is beautiful, and it's a little bit slow to get going, but then when it gets going, it's one of these films that
Ghibli
takes you somewhere else, and you suspend your disbelief, you know, that kind of.
And he uses a lot of like Japanese folk tales.
Yeah, well, it's what it is,
right? And like Spirited Away is full of it. I love it.
It's kind of similar but different enough to be its own thing, you know. And it's just like it's just a beautiful piece of filmmaking, really.
So do you ever watch any anime besides that?
Yeah, I watched that.
Dragon Ball?
No, I didn't watch that one.
I grew up with Dragon Ball. Akira movie. No series really, or?
Yeah, I like the Battle Angels, Alita.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a huge anime nerd as well too. I wish I had the time to read more manga, but I just don't have it. So I like to just watch some of that. It's really cool. But if you're ever bored, there's one that's really cool. I'm very intrigued by time traveling myself, and there's this one called Tokyo Revengers, and it's quite dramatic. It's not crazy weird like kids with powers, or it's just very dramatic. And if you ever get interested I'll send you a link, but it's pretty cool. Dude, well, I don't know, I think we've talked about everything. Future plans, but I mean, I know my future plan will be able to sleep tonight because we got another show tomorrow. Immediate plan, but
my immediate plan is doing the show and getting home. That's my immediate.
Cool. Looking forward to your longest trip back home. But anything that you wish could happen in the next 2 years on Neil's life, what besides? I mean, because you already have love, stability, happiness, but anything that you ambition, it could be as silly as having my own robot, or
no. I mean, I think just transitioning successfully to the next stage of life.
Okay.
And life isn't easy, is it? So. I don't know, I sort of feel like I'm definitely, you know, it's maybe slowing down a little bit and taking a bit more time to enjoy things rather than, you know, when you're younger, everything's just like...
You want to eat it, you want to eat it all.
Yeah, you want it all, and you want to do it this week, and I don't really feel like that anymore. Like, you know, it's even with gigs, it's like, I'm quite happy doing 2 or 3 gigs a month. I don't need to be playing every Friday, Saturday night.
Right.
I don't have that intensity of desire anymore. I'd rather just do a few things and do them well. But,
that's good. That's awesome, man.
And you know, maybe having another learning. You know, I like learning, so maybe just learning something else.
Like how to fish or something.
No, I don't know how to fish. No, like I mean a skill, like some kind of
like karate.
You know, no, like I mean, like you know, you've got your work is very involved, and you're clearly highly skilled at the specifics of what you do.
Yeah, I don't know. Kurt just did something weird.
You're very skilled at what you do, and you know it's nice to see that, and it's kind of
Thank
like
you, man. Yeah, you spend some time at the lab staring.
I would quite like to be able to do something else as well. You know.
Well, if you're open to exploitation, you're more than welcome to come and work for me.
Well, the thing is, because I've always had an interest in 3D modeling. So,
oh, okay.
So I don't think it would be too, and I know how to use all that kind of software. So
that'd be interesting. Frowns by Neil. That's dope.
Well, it's like prosthetics, isn't it? You're kind of.
It is. I mean, It is a prosthetic. It is a fixed prosthetic, and thankfully 3D and a digital world has made things a lot easier. Back in the day, it was just really complex to make a crown. It did take an artist to be able to build.
So before, was it like almost like carved?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was built.
Built.
Like you get a base, which would be your metal coping, like the base, and then they call it stacking porcelain.
Yeah. So you would add on.
You'll add on and then carve it,
carve it,
and shape it. So it's quite the art. And sadly, new materials have made it so what you get now is close looking to a real thing, you know, and it's not nearly as extensive or exhausting to fabricate. Like, you know, it won't take you 2 days to make a crown. Now it takes me 20 minutes.
Right. So what's the difference between if a patient requested a titanium crown, why would they choose to have a metal crown as opposed to a zirconium?
It's really a patient's preference.
Is that just an aesthetic choice?
Not even, well, functionality speaking, it could be the fact that your bite is compromised and you just bite in a weird way where you keep breaking porcelain.
Okay.
So if you keep doing that, the best option is just get a metal crown. You know? So cool, man. I really I'm privileged to be able to talk to you in front of the camera, to be called your friend, spend so much time together over the amount of time that we've known each other, and thank you for being awesome. Thank you for the lunch this morning. And yeah, man, like somebody told me something really silly the other day after playing, and he said, people like you make me happy. He said something along the lines as like, I'm happy that people like you exist. And I say the same to you. It's like really cool and refreshing to be able to come across a human that's has achieved so much in their career, and yet being able to just ride along with me and just talk, you know. And you're not asking me for a silly picture outside some mural like somebody that I know in a rude way. So thank you, man. Thank you for that. And I think we're cool for now. So we've been a bit over the hour. We're gonna leave it as is. And thank you all. I will add some links as well, so you can follow Neil's Bandcamp. I guess social, he is somewhat active, but you know, he's just actively playing and working on new stuff. So you say Bandcamp will be your go-to?
Bandcamp's what gets the most effort.
Bandcamp is where you'll see the most effort there, and he doesn't want any more followers. I'll leave the links there too. But yeah, listen to his stuff, educate yourself about history, and again, it's just a lot of passion gets put into a set, especially when you're playing with machines. So you know, you're a breed on your own as well too, so it's just very few selected people that can do it that well. So thank you, and we're good. Peace out.